Welcome. My name is Patrick Perry. I work on the zscaler DoD team as a director of emerging technologies. And what I'd like to share with you today is this concept called SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, and how it's changing the way that organizations are doing security as we know it. So Gartner defined the term SASE, and what led them to that was basically this understanding of the current environment is that network security architectures that place the enterprise data center at the center of connectivity requirements are ultimately an inhibitor to the dynamic access requirements of digital business. And what that means when you reference the drawing is if you look at how people outside your environment and inside your environment have to get to data, whether your data is also located inside the trusted environment or in the outside, maybe on the web, or even in a cloud service, all of these approaches are totally different flows and take on a whole load of security capabilities. You can either centralize them, which has kind of been the approach to save money and to try to keep security policy common, but then slows down user experience, or you could try to displace it and move security stacks into lots of different locations, which then obviously makes it more complex, harder to maintain a common policy, et cetera. But all of these dynamics are what's really kind of led to the problem that we have. So Gartner basically said, the way that we can do this is we need to reduce complexity and we need to build a common unified security approach, ideally with one vendor or maybe two, but founded in the new principles, specifically secure web gateway, but also other capabilities like CASB, DNS, ZTNA, and browser isolation, to name a few. And we'll talk about a couple more in a few. But in the end, all these stuff needs to come together and work together in unison and need to be in line. So when they started doing their research and they started realizing that security is not only, it can't be this bot or castle and moat approach where security had to go back to the common data center and then back out, but the future of network security is really also moving to the cloud because of the distributed needs. And that's where SASE kind of came along. And what they did is find these three major points. One of them being that compute power at the edge is where the power is. Trying to stack it all in one spot is really not the best place. Branch with just a router and then connecting to an inline cloud security is kind of the future. Trying to build security stacks everywhere or hub and spoke model to one place is not scalable and is not proven to work. And then the world is moving to where almost all data traffic flows are being encrypted, and therefore inline encrypted traffic inspection at full scale of your data paths is a must requirement, or you won't be able to actually get after the security threats. And how that looks kind of in a picture is this. You have a very small footprint somewhere like your branch or even any of your locations anymore. You need the SD-WAN kind of network orchestration and automation layer, ensuring that, again, you're using the right security paths where you need it. But then the rest of your security capabilities are up into this cloud environment, this secure access service edge. Again, moving security as close to the services as possible and keeping them in line. The final thing that we really recognize is that this architecture had to be able to work at a full proxy level. You needed to move security and the impacts of a security problem away from your environment. You couldn't wait until it got into your environment and therefore could either laterally spread or infect, as it, wherever it could lay at. Gartner kind of defined, these are the key principles that you should look at. First, you have your required. So when you think about a maturity model, your initial entry to SASE, you should be looking for these specific things, like secure web gateway, CASB, all the stuff that we kind of talk about. And this is kind of, what every SASE capability should be able to bring to the table. But then past that, you should start looking at, okay, but what does a more mature SASE kind of capability look like? Does it bring you things like recursive DNS? Is it an API-based protection into web applications or into SaaS applications? Does it support managed and unmanaged devices? Or is it kind of it only works really well if you also fully trust the environment? And then finally, there's some even more important things. Is it obfuscating the network threats? Is it also supporting, Wi-Fi kind of users? So your non-validated identity users, can you still ensure that they can get into an environment or get into, a network to get access to the internet and still work at the same level of security? So the network security kind of, the network world has always been looking like this. We've already kind of talked about it. It's very data center centric, hub and spoke. Users get access to remote users get access to a network, and then you try to kind of limit their movement or their access either at layer 2 and layer 3, security controls, or even just at the front door of an application, at an access method. But the new world is looking more like this. Everything kind of needs to talk to everything, but you need to make sure that it's supposed to happen, and then continuous validation of that, because the bottom line is, the cloud is kind of the new data center, whether you're a single cloud, a multi-cloud, hybrid cloud kind of deployment model, cloud is somewhere probably in your data center future. Business policies connect apps and devices and users. They don't just connect people to networks. And because when you put somebody on a network, the ability to control everything drastically lowers, and you're stuck kind of hoping that things bad that don't happen because of all the different layers in which somebody can hide in. So let's kind of take a minute or two and talk about, again, how else can we kind of define this SASE platform kind of solution that consolidates security strategies while simplifying IT. And we'll start again with the two common flows of traffic stuff. A flow of traffic going out to an external app where you have no control over the security parameters of it. And even the infrastructure itself that it's sitting in might be way underneath your control or even meet the security needs that you think. And then your stuff in private apps, whether again, it's in your private data center or even a cloud infrastructure, but you have a lot of level of control to your security for that. And then again, how are you going to scale to meet all these things and be full proxy in line to make sure that, again, all security threats are accounted for? So you start off with that, again, the biggest threat, this outbound and internet-facing stuff. And you have to be able to do all this stuff at full scale. So not only are you trying to do malware protection and firewall rules and IPS signatures, and URL filtering, but you're also trying to do like full cloud sandbox. How do you stop a malicious file like a day zero from ever reaching into your environment? How do you detonate that remotely into this environment? How do you get after CASB requirements? Again, what are the hooks back into the backside SaaS applications to even scan that environment for malicious content, ensuring that something isn't being lost, stolen, or spreading through the rest of your environment. And then, at all else that fail, you might have to be able to just flip into a browser isolation session that then removes the threat back and forth and just starts kind of rendering the information in the form of a pixel. But besides that, actually, let's think about that for a second. In the past, we tried to do it with all these stacks of security, like you see on the bottom, all best of breeds. It would take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of manpower to maintain. But a new cloud delivered approach almost seems like the obvious. But then there's more. You also need to account for everything else. What about your remote access? What about direct access to only applications and not the network? These are those extra SASE kind of requirements that you have to build in to the overall platform and be able to do all together. So on the way towards this and how you kind of figure out what is the best path for you, you can kind of start kind of building out, a checklist on how you define excellence and how you can measure one against another. We already talked about all the technologies, everything that, you should really be evaluating, making sure it can do all these different things at full speed, at full scale, and at the best user experience with not too much burden on your administrative group. But at the same time, how was the organization and the capability founded in? It should be built on a transformational approach, not just an upgrade of your technology, and it should enable you for any-to-any connectivity. Is the organization that you're going to, or the platform you're going to, already a proven success? Is it a market leader in other categories or foundational categories? And is it, again, a highly rated platform? Who else is using it? Are large scale companies, so proven scalability, proven, meet the demand of very intense companies, is all that accounted for? And can it upgrade and move along and grow with the ever evolving threat landscape? And then can you go out there and can you find quantifiable measurements on improvements? Large organizations that have not only deployed a capability, but has also been able to validate that return on investment. So again, I want to say thank you. My name is Patrick Perry. If I can ever help, please reach out. And I look forward to having a conversation at any time.